So one of the things which appears in the scholarship a fair amount is that there is this distinctive, Islam is sympathetic and even supports slavery, right? That there's a kind of that slavery and Islam somehow go together.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you could comment on that, because this is a notion which is very pervasive in a lot of the scholarship. That either that there is something in the faith that licenses it, that with the spread of Islam goes the spread of slavery. And you're actually telling a story which is really different, which is about tensions between clerics and people others who are Muslim, but sort of saying this is, there's a sort of a disagreement that's taking place. And so I wonder, so there's your local story, but I also get the sense that you're telling a much bigger story about how we think about Islam, how we think about slavery, and what their relationship is to each other.
Yeah. So the way that I would start to answer this question is the piece that Sylviane mentioned in the introduction from the Cambridge World History of Slavery, Slavery in Islamic Africa, 1400 to 1800. So this is an attempt to do a synthetic overview of the history of slavery in all African Muslim societies, while at the same time looking at doctrinal debates within Islamic thought about enslavement. And the way that I'll just, so the short answer is that we were told a lie by late 19th and early 20th century Orientalists who suggested that slavery and Islam were coterminous. And this was part of a very motivated attempt both to denigrate African societies and Muslim societies and to monopolize claims on freedom and emancipatory thought within a Western post-Enlightenment tradition. So that Islam and African societies become coterminous with slavery and despotism, and the white people are to be given credit for everything that was ever liberatory or emancipatory in human thought. And so the way in which we approached the question of the relationship between slavery and Islam was not historical. It was polemical. And people referred to particular canonical texts, not the Quran itself, almost never the Quran itself, but to later legal texts to paint a portrait of an Islamic law that was accepting of slavery. Whereas once you start to scratch the surface of the actual legal opinions, you realize that nobody agreed about anything. And there were people that never accepted the idea that any enslavement could happen beyond the time of the original wars that the Prophet himself directed, and that he himself had freed any person that he had ever owned during his life before he died, and that there was a very powerful thread of anti-slavery thought within Islam that was being systematically downplayed. And so part of what I was doing both in the Cambridge World History of Slavery piece, and I also wrote, there's a new one coming out on the 19th century as well that picks up where that story left off. So what I was doing in both of those chapters, as well as in this one, is trying to tell a historical story that gave expression to some of that intellectual ambivalence about slavery within Muslim societies, and to see that people actually found resources to think against slavery within conventional Islamic thought.